Welcome to another episode of I Got This. You're here with me, host Ayse Hogan, visionary and strategist of IAUSM, International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery, as well as one of the authors in this series that we're doing right now, From Bottom to Top. One of the authors that's with us is Desiree Scherini, and she's also one of the faculty, surprisingly, of IAUSM. And she's with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about, this is going to be funny what I'm going to say. We're going to talk a little bit today about her bottom.
Which I'm also working on.
Hey, Desiree, how are you?
I'm good, Ayse. Good to see you and hear you.
Awesome.
I get to see you, but the rest of the people only get to hear you.
Yeah, no, they just get to hear us today.
Yeah.
So I want you to sort of share with the people who you are and where you are in your life right now.
Okay. Well, I'm a hypnotherapist and life coach, author. I also have a book before this one, just written by myself. And I'm an artist and arts instructor, mom, and but my kids are grown, and so I can kind of outgrow that as well. Yeah, that kind of a little bit of everything. Yeah, maybe a little bit of too much. I always seem to be chasing down my next interest, but
I think we're all doing that.
Yeah,
I hope so. Life is in flux, right? It's always in change. It's always fluxing.
Yeah.
It's always fluxing.
Yeah, I'm a flux.
It's always fluxing. So, you know what I find really interesting? We've got about 40 authors in IAUSM, in From Bottom to Top, and almost every one of them in their lives have changed their lives around so much that they are now contributing, spending their time helping others, which is, I think, pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think that would be the common theme or trend, because from my personal experience, it's like when you've hit the bottom or where you feel like you were, really down, I think it grows some sort of an altruism that you want to help other people escape that or not get there.
Right. Yeah. It's a way of, I guess, paying it forward. I was, we were, some people helped us and now we want to help people. So it's amazing. The one question I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you not to give away too much of your chapter, because we, of course, want people to read your story. But how did you know? What were the danger signs? How did you know when you hit bottom?
Yeah, there were lots of, how people talk about red flags, right? So there were lots of red flags that I ignored or, tried to bleach out to pink or something.
Right.
So I tried to, just say, well, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. And by ignoring those red flags, I did finally reach a point where my warning sign, that big warning sign is, I was considering suicide. And it was really only momentarily. It wasn't like, oh, I'm thinking about it for a long time, like some people do. There was this one moment where I thought about it. And, I was in the moment and I'm like, I could just do that. And I thought, geez, what is wrong with you? What are you like? Has it gotten that bad? And it was almost like, a slap in the face that this is ridiculous, and you have children, and what would you do to them? And really, I've done other interviews. I said, thank goodness I had children, because I was not going to do that to them. I might have done it to myself.
It's amazing, and it's good that you thought about it. I'm so glad that you didn't do it. I mean, I was there. I was there too, and it's So I guess the one thing that I'd like people to know that are listening is that if you've thought about it, you're not alone in thinking about it. It's an option. It is an option. Clearly, it's an option. And some people take it. Some people think about it momentarily. Some people mull over that option for a while. But ultimately, it's an option. It is one of our options. It's one of our choices in this life, to either say I'm going to move forward or I'm not. And the one thing that I guess we don't consider when we're doing it, because we're so stuck and we're so sort of only associated with ourselves and what's going on in that moment, is how is this going to affect all the people that I know? And not just, your children, but what about your friends? What about your
Mm-hmm.
parents? What about your aunts and uncles? And what about the people that know you? And
Right.
what message? So we, but we don't really think about anybody except maybe our very immediate people around us.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God we have those immediate people.
Yeah. And it, it does help to get that bigger picture. Now when I talk to people, as a, life coach, or, I do get people that have thought of it, have even tried it, have, gone back to that consideration. And, it's even to people are in such pain sometimes that they are just like, they will believe that their friends and family are better off without them. They don't want them here anyway. And
Right.
that's not the truth, and then have to go back to even one of the best tips I ever got from, studying or taking a course on talking to people around, preventing suicide, was the analogy of, like, you've got a bookshelf and you've got all these books on there, and some of them you've read, some of them you haven't. And one of those books is suicide. One of those books is called Suicide. And you can choose that book, but that's the last book you're ever going to read in this lifetime. And aren't there other books you'd like to maybe pick up before you go? So it's just having that bigger picture of, this is not all there is. There are so many options, so many other books on the shelf that we can choose to pick up and read. And well, I'm glad I decided not to read that one book. It's like,
So what other options did you think you had at that time?
Well, they were narrow and they seemed overwhelming. And what it was, a lot of it was that it was so totally outside my abilities that I felt I had. I felt like, how would I, I'm limited. I felt captured. I felt like there was no choice. So obviously I did find options. And the first option, the first step was to just say, okay, I've got options. And if I don't have options, I'm going to make options. And I really started to just brainstorm, like, what's the worst thing that could happen if I choose, to go on. And I went through a whole, thinking, what do you call it? Brainstorming.
Yeah.
I went through the whole brainstorming thing of, what could I do instead? Even as ridiculous as it might be. And there were lots of options. And like you say, friends, family, other places to be or go, or people
And it
that
was
would
the
help.
question. I mean, you asked a question, and the question
Yeah.
was different than, why is this happening to me? The question was, what else could I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that opens up all kinds of doorways that you're not even that you're not even aware of at the time, that all of a sudden start to show up for you.
Yeah. And then also, the bigger picture of, I know this is not a popular one to think of, but there's always somebody that's worse off. And to look at myself and say, come on, stop it, get up, just get to work. It's okay. You're going to be fine. There's people that are, happier than you with a lot less and with, a lot worse circumstances, but it's your mindset.
Right.
What was it? I think it was Abraham Hicks or something had a great quote about, I am so free that I can be, imprisoned. I can be in chains, but I'm free. And so even just the mindset is if you free your mind, then you can free all sorts of other things.
Right. I mean, people can hold your body hostage, but they can't hold you hostage.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that can do that to you is you.
Yeah. We have our perceptions and our choices. And once you free your mind, then, you have so much more power over,
Absolutely.
taking all the other steps.
So you obviously made a choice
Mm-hmm.
at some point, and that was to brainstorm and to find other options, and what made you decide to choose what you chose?
Well, well, it was, like I say, brainstorming. And I guess it was mostly just take action, whatever that action was, instead of being stuck, instead of being frozen in like feeling like I had no choices. So I don't know what, just the choice, the kids, the future, just make a choice to do something other than die.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
so you made a choice, you started brainstorming. And how long do you think it really was before you started to notice things begin to shift for you?
Well, it was immediate when I decided to change my mindset. It was like, be a fighter, not wimpy, like, I can't do this. It was
Well,
it was
the thought definitely at
to
the
be
time.
a fighter. And I changed once I decided. It was really within a 10-minute, 15-minute window of going from bottom to not top yet, but changing that mindset that I am not putting up with this anymore. I'm getting myself out of this situation. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's going to happen. And truth be told, I think from that point, it might have taken 5 years.
Yeah,
But
it's a journey. It's a journey for sure. But you look at it like this great new adventure.
Mm-hmm. But my mind was, I just had to flip the switch. It wasn't a dimmer up. It was I lifted that switch up to change my mindset.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, because it's super important for people to know that. Why do we stay in a situation that we're in? Because we know it. It's hard for people to flip the switch, because that means they're going to go somewhere that they're not used to being, that they don't know
The
what's going to
unfamiliar.
happen, right?
Yeah.
But do it, because clearly the familiar isn't a good place.
Right?
Clearly the familiar is not working for you, right? So better to go to the unfamiliar and find out other things and try different things than stay in the familiar that's not working. And I don't know why we want to stay in the familiar that's not working, why we love to stay stuck. I'm not sure. I think it's fear, clearly.
Yeah. I know why.
Okay.
It's actually, this neuroplasticity thing, but when we have a behavior, it tends, and we repeat it and we repeat it. A good description was like, going on your sled down the snow hill, right? And once you go down once, it's easier to go down that same path over and over again. And it's really difficult to try and drag your sled over and make a new path. So that's how our brains are operating too. So the neurons fire in a certain way. And whenever we repeat our behavior or our thoughts, we strengthen that neural connection and the other ones die away. And that's why they say it takes, 20 to 45 days or 60 days to change a behavior, because we have to form those new neural pathways. So just like anything that takes us to, keeps us stuck, it's because our brain honestly has a very hard time changing that neural pathway, and it's uncomfortable. It feels wrong. It feels weird. It's not normal to switch up that thought or that behavior, and it takes effort. And then it gets hard.
Yeah, it's true. It feels hard. I can't do it.
It's
You can, but you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to get help sometimes. People try to do so much stuff on their own, and there's so much help out there. There's free help, there's paid help, there's, all sorts of help. There's books, there's, friends, family to know you're not alone and get support on making those positive changes for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to get the help. And it's not because, I don't want to say because you're not smart enough to do it on your own. I think what it is that you're so associated with the issue. You're so in it that sometimes when we're so in it, we're just like those horses with blinders on. We cannot even see that there's other options, or we don't even know how to make that left or that right, or how we're going to do that. And it just takes, someone else to be able, who's disassociated from the situation, to be able to look at it and go, hey, you got this, and this is how we're going to do it. And it's not as hard as you think, and be able to support you all the way through it.
Yeah. And even, like I always like to say, is like, like you say, the blinders, take off the blinders, see the bigger picture. And people that get stuck in situations that are not good for them or they're unhappy with, a lot of times they'll explain it away, and make excuses, and oh gosh. And the worst thing, and I was there, and I remember talking to people and experiencing this and living through it for years, sticking in that victim. I'm a victim, and this happened and that happened, and then they, and I can't. And I was, we kind of have to go through that, but the faster you can get past being the victim, the sooner you're going to gain your personal power and be who you want to be and live the life you want to live, because ultimately it's up to, you, it's up to me, it's up to each of us to be our own advocate. But sometimes it takes that help from someplace else
to find your hero, right? Your superpower, your hero, right? Just as much as strength as it takes to be a victim, it actually takes less strength to be your hero, right? So just people don't see themselves that way. And it's true. I mean, we all have a story. I always love that. It's something that I say to my clients too. It's like, we all have a story to tell. And when we tell our story at the beginning, it's usually from the eyes of a victim.
Yeah. And, and one of my clients who was, very stuck in being the victim, I was trying to help her, reframe it. And I said, you feel like a victim. You keep saying you've been a victim and you're a victim. I said, how about switch that up? Because when you say I am, you continue to build just like that neural pathway, right? Your thoughts just repeat. When you say I am a victim, you are identifying as a victim, and it's going to be much harder to be self-empowered. I said, how about I am self-empowered, but I have been victimized? There are those who will want to try to victimize you, but it's up to you to not become their victim, even in thought. Like we started this conversation, if you can just break out of that, take over your own thoughts.
And you don't have, it doesn't have to be so big. Sometimes you got to do it in pieces. Like when you were saying down that sled, going down the hill, maybe you don't need to make a hard right. Maybe you just have to make a gentle right, and then each time you go down, just pull it a little bit more. Right. And it doesn't have to be like this whole, now I've got to switch directions and go up the hill. So it's, you don't have to do that. You can just do a little bit at a time, and that's okay too.
Anything you can do if you're feeling like a victim, if you're feeling stuck. If you can't do the big flip the switch, then do the dimmer, but do something that starts breaking that old pattern that's not working.
Just something. Absolutely. Do something. So when someone reads your chapter, Desiree, what is the message? I think we have already talked about some of the message, but what is the message that you want them to walk away with?
Well, the message is to get back your personal power. Be your own, listen to your own voice. Don't let yourself be the victim of other people's opinions, thoughts. Watch out what you take on, what people say to you. If they want to say something great about you, go ahead, take that on. If they want to say something negative, you can think about it. Does that fit? Is this really, me? And if it is, how do I change who I am to adjust to be happier with myself and, also work with other people? But, the bottom line was I had given away my power to other people, other people's thoughts and choices about me. And I lost who, my self-worth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now as a coach, as a hypnotherapist, we both are the same there. Do the same work, helping people out. What, beyond everything we've talked about right now, what would you say your favorite strategy or tip is to share with people? I think we already touched on it. It's to zoom out, disassociate. Because like I say, when you're in it, you can't see it. I picture, I always have these visuals, and it's like you're out there in the ocean and the waves are really big and it's swirling around and you're caught in the riptide, and the waves are so big you can't even see that there is a life raft, just a few feet away for you to swim to. But if you could rise up above yourself and sort of disassociate and say, what's happening here? Let me see what's going on, instead of seeing it through my eyes, see it as the observer. And then you can go, hey, look, there's a life raft if you just swim this direction.
when you disassociate and you pretend you're someone else watching you, watching your interactions, watching your life choices, it's much easier to see the direction you need to go.
Yeah. I love that one. I always say that too, but I always say it like this, pretend you're on the other side of the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of staring at yourself, you're on the other side of the mirror looking at you. What do you see?
Yeah.
Right. So, it's a great way to say it. And it's funny when people say, don't, disassociation is it means that it's a bad thing, right? It's, they put it as a diagnosis for a bad thing, but no, you want to get outside yourself sometimes to see what you're doing. It's the only way you can see.
Well, it's a different kind of disassociation, not the one where you have, multiple personalities.
Right. That's
it's the observer versus the, the subjective view, instead of the subjective view, have the objective view of your, experiences in life. And then get back in your body and do something about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a part of IAUSM. Thank you for being part of this book. Thank you for sharing today. And thank you all for listening. And I'd love to hear some of your comments, some of your questions. Please feel free to send them to me at Ayse@IAUSM.com. You can definitely send me anything. And I love hearing from people. I love hearing their thoughts, no matter what those are. So have a fantastic day, and we'll be back with another episode soon.